Okay, today is Friday, the 12th of this November 2021. This is 1302. Um, this residual, which for what the references between the real, as we've been through and we continue to go through, that this Buenos Aires side, to the making one moment and one instant, though as the references we know and we understand must be that I am in a very place which this coffee shop, like with others, as much a very known, recognized trademark, which is to be from around Argentina and Mar del Plata place. To be precise, so traditional from what it used to be, the sane and the healthy side, forwarding as much a very aching population that further as much any other have been through for the ache part as what we've been suffering, but on this side, part of a way which embraced the population for the making a normal day between what it was the activities within a very population that were seeking to be a nation and to have rights like a nation. Um, there is not any other but the reality for as much so others have been suffering the same class of situations, although and every imperialism historical event and what it I.E.S. have been through, forwarding what this class of sicknesses, putting apart the five that were not exactly for the intentions to commit or to accomplish what this imperialism is exactly the fact. Over what they're referring the need immediately as the referring in the norm which they would making us always been doing to devastate, destroying and establishing an artifact over themselves as beneficials on the artifact and the class of generations that only affects and benefits them and nobody else's, though as the clear fact as they would making the whole of the need until the need, and no matter whom and what, except for what it works for them and is useful to them, and however the any class of a best ever for, not just making the sinnering, but also for whatever as puppet, whatever as servile on the sicknesses, and however anyone will ever receive the best ever consideration for wording served to the cause and served to the ones that will ever be the reference to serve. Though as any class of references and problems, it involves so much further as what the clear facts on the problem itself. And there were devastations, although as nations in a normal humankind, though as this altered humankind have been causing as destructions and abominations as they had for a supremacization which involves they would accomplish the clear fact of them ancestral plans to become the highest ever expression of all and also like gods themselves. There happened a very historical reality, and between the whole of the references we are ending with the fight of the ARGNTINIAN, which is the organization called for the references of the last segment of history that involved what it was called government of the world, with a very mentioned but a very erratic situation, pardon for victims and innocents, with the name of Christianism that is part of the imperialism itself, which doesn't involve God but against God and offending Almighty Holy God, and trying to put down Almighty Holy God for making the commitment. And the reality itself with victims and innocents apart on the clear fact of a references that more than any other called like the beast, and the reference of this Krukesh in antique Hebrew, which will be the commitment over a leadership that will deliver this leader in a very on top references to be right at the bottom of the complete of the column of this imperialism to put down the complete of the love of God and who God loved on the devastation and abomination and destruction and dealing and condemnating as if there would be God himself and making the whole of the exploding for destruction and damnation, and the whole of the charge of death and abominations in a way that no precedent shall ever done, although as imperialism have been historically making. So the reality of this is exactly what it will be a defeat on an hegemonical reality and a plan that involves exactly one totem, which is exactly a paradigm in Torah, which is the essential for the ending of times and beginning of the judgments for justice by Almighty Holy God, which is exactly a reference that Christianism deliberated as if this prophet and judge of Almighty Holy God, El Chai Kadosh, called Daniel, will receive a message which he would determinately putting in evidences, though as any class of situations, over the supposed incoming periods. And it's not what he received. He received a very cold, though as what the end of times, because of the wonder about the sufferers were that intense and that terrible, that were exactly one message in a paradigm, like Torah delivers. In Kabbalah, in Parashat, in As-Mesechem, in As-Mishpat Techta, at Nisich Lashefet, and also Antich, at 6 references of it and some others. While on the reference of this paradigm made the conclusion over the seasons to closing like a lock over the cycles and beginning the complete of the destruction for justice at the whole which historical happened and were and each as have been through, from a victim until a bastard committing. What a crime. Then on the reference of this is exactly the called one totem on the view, with a head of gold, with a thorax of bronze, with arms of copper and hands of iridium, with a very spurred and legs on iron, and upon iron feet, putting down feet of mud, which is exactly the right description, not antique Hebrew in Torah. Over the reference to be exactly the government of the world, empire of empires, on the whole hegemony, Lucifer, which is Armodonot, king of Babylon, Lucifer in person, and Avalon, which is Edrasel, called God of War of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is the same as Monra called for Egyptian antique empire, with the reference of being the right hegemony for the complete of the global by Anubis and Lubis to control, which are Sodom and Gomorrah. And for Babylon were called Apollyon, for the mastery over the world, which were Sodom, Akmuden, and Gomorrah, Bimbafa, for Babylon. And this is the same person that comes to heaven at the references for from the fell, this Et Hazel, which used to be a cherubim with the highest ever exponential for the holiness, filled with the whole of the abomination, with the worst of the conditions, though as understanding the reference of the mechanism to making that reverse part from what the holiness until to seeking the door, for the making and becoming everything in a very abomination after another with the whole weight of the whole of the seasons. The clear fact of this is exactly that we've been through, and this ERTHAMAID accomplished toward the ancestors' races and the ancestors' elementations, as much were called, for the being exactly the races of ancestors by imperialism, that everyone will found and never be touched or ruined any career, because of everybody will suffer the consequences, and any offense to any of them because of everybody will pay for. Then the clear fact as much, these behaviors we know them N.I.E.S.T, and further as much we understand they are sickness. They are massive cycles at the complete of the disposition for them own, and at the reference for them principles and them standards and norms. And further that, nobody breathes, because of it will be them and nobody else's. Further as much that all, they've been declaring themselves at what it was February 15th, 2006, presented themselves in front of the United Nations in Malaysia and a near post to demanding the whole of the states to submit and to attach them commandment and them orders, because of they said to be called in front of the whole of the United Nations the state above the whole of the states. with the called Kirchners, which the real ones, the presidents of Argentina, at the head of administration on, and were not the name that they could use for is exactly the same behaviors that comes over the change age part and another. The reference of these problems came attached in so much other references inside and though post and previous and though and like a very gaming to domains and installing the whole of the references to domain the whole of the natures. And the reality of this is a terrible thing because of we've suffered exactly that. Though as much whatever and however percentuals or anything to be, were a devastation and abomination after another and too much suffer that didn't have to happen. It's not what had to be, it's an announcement to fight and to seeking for justice. So I came forward, so we do. Alright, the reference of this is a little bit further. Much as more, whatever this is exactly that we are, though, as the final recta, if anybody wants to call this term, recta final. And further as whatever, if the final or not, is exactly what we've been going through and making what the best ever ways until the ways, possibly. Then between the whole that we've been doing and we still do is something else that is exactly determinately delegated. And between what it can be in a norm, so putting a scale of what the dangers and what the sickness and what the real worries than any other is that though as the recognizements of us all, the feral part of the sickness that remains around any remain on, are willing to the making and commit as much what them best ever prides and honors to making whatever necessary in order to dangerous. So we work and we do the complete necessary as much as possible. Okay, I just made a very work in a very way that from there with Ben filed and also Nolan Hunkert and including for what Uranus, Blade and Hastic can provide to justice parties. I'm gonna publish this and I think this is being watched already by arbitrarian and other persons directly. On the clear as much what it is more than a brief, it's a research and it's exactly presenting for evidences about a last requestment for so stranger behaviors that involve disappearing missing people, kidnapped people systemically, and kidnapped people really disappeared, though as much commitments for murders and massive and serial ones. The rest were capturedly found and delivered for exhumation with a real practice of forensics by the international courts, and already happened. And also the evidence is deliberately by me and others forwarding as much necessary to making what the right compound of steps forwarding this class of crimes that I will be involved, like always have been exposed by Ejército Argentino and Armada Argentina and the called Kirchners and Evangelicals United, though as I will be the part of the whole of the background operator for the making this, with the supposed suspicious to be exactly the supposed beast, with the term that I will be Jewish as well, but I will be recognized here in Argentina, that they said. And the whole in Argentina will be just like a grave, though as much they will say what to be and not me. Anyway, though as any other which the references with this is exactly a little farther until the clear as much understanding what the class of a sickness, saving for victims' innocence and any person to rescue, though what the real emergency is, and the state of distress and destruction that this have been causing in a very sociopathic ambient, with a completeness though not only corrupting and healing people and abducting and disparagement, there was whatever missing conscience and missing the judgment and the identifiable capacity and how to surviving if the identify now what to know and what to say and how to go through until the normal best ever senses and how a normal reality for what a person healthy to having a life and to having a little respect. And between the whole of the choices over these schools that they mix us although as much like anybody could be anyone and they will show it. And between the whole of the choices, that I will be a delirious delusional one with the whole of the character over, as much to presenting that the credibility of a state called of Argentina and its forces and evangelicals and the whole operators of the justice of them, and also especially forensics and the whole of the psychiatrists, will deliberately giving the best ever guarantee that I will be a demon person, while is exactly the best ever conspirately that they will be a guarantee to be a state, a government, and that will be unspeechably undiscussable. But the reality is that they has too much to say, like a very secret of Argentina and a secret of state, which is called they will be, in a massive way, the whole I am. And that will be delirious for me, but they needs that for the dissuading what they speeches at the other side, that the whole I do, I wouldn't do it but them. And the whole I am, I wouldn't be but them. And the whole I exist, I wouldn't exist but them. But I do it, and they will show, though I do. And they think that we are stupid, but they are a menace, and they threats to killing everybody that wouldn't submit and attach. So I have a problem. Policía de la Ciudad, del gobierno de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires, are an organization ulterior for the very sickness of this organization called ERTHAMAID. And the reality for them, saving for the ones already put it apart, victims and innocents, are sick like the goddamn disgusting Ejército Argentino always were. And the reality for this, and same Armada Argentina and the whole of them bodies, is exactly the reference that I will continue to making whatever my delusional character of a journey, but they are delusionally sick as the hell, calling them, I don't know if calling wives, that will be the voice me, and they has a problem with the soprano, which looks at me in a case, over that I will be the project secret, that everyone could be me, with 9,016 clones of my person that they've done, that I've sent, dead, to putting organs, and making some figuring that a school last will making the possibility for everybody to accept that everything will be possible, that they will do what I do and everything will be doubtable, for they to take position, kill, switch, take, possess, and they're happy, they have rights, they are a government. And they will be nothing that nobody will describe except them, because of they will be a government. But the reference is that nothing is to show except for what it was shown in now. Also, I am a government. And we know that so, and let's delire a little bit, that the sickness of this disgusting organization called Gobierno Nacional de la República Argentina doesn't has no remedy but a fever that needs to be chilled out in a very grade. And so the things are placed. So the reference of this is exactly that we've finished over it all, and the completeness which are research and the proof complete on this, with also witnesses that were called, if I can say, in a jury, and a very complete equipment for a very severe official infrastructurals for this research to be found until the highest ever sickness that this disgusting bastards doesn't are, over whatever the breathing around and the goddamn disgusting bestest ever darkest ever places of them. And so we've done, and this is finished. The completeness of the references of my struggle and my stress around post-traumatic or traumatic forwarding the supposed psychiatric condition of mine are exactly expressed by the whole of the practice of them, that they are so harassing me, intimidating me around, for I to understand that they are gonna make the job and I'm gonna put them in the hell myself. But the reality of this is that they need to be so excitedly, like a very sickness that everyone is, for the making a schooling, though as whatever around, they will show my cycle part, over just stimulating a little bit my side with a presence intimidational that I will come like a very psychiatric person to show. Because of their government, that will be a guarantee to show, and they are that naive psychos and health fevered that they think that they can show something. And they think that they can say in speech. And they think that they can say, I, psychiatric, once they are so sick. Although, at the number that they need to show my supposed megalomaniac in a very omnipresent and a very, they said, omnipotent problem that I will get with the soprano and with the one that offended the evangelicals and what that needs medications, and the whole of the cases over the sick degenerados, which are with the secret of Argentina, saving for victims and innocents. And the reality for this that much as all have been done and finished. The complete of the reality for these briefs and the whole of the evidences and witnesses already with Your Honor Randall Spowers from Oslo International Court of Justice and Craig Lidan from New York City, which is exactly International Criminal Court Liaison Office. The complete were public at the web of Liaison Office on ECP and AC Justice Parties G350 and the ITEC and the completeness with a proof and with a complete as much witnesses with the whole of them testimonies at public with a cherry completely for the complete of the states for what the severe and serials on the serial murders committed by Argentinian army, Argentinian armed, and Argentinian forces with the cold Kirchner's government of Argentina and them United Evangelicals putting me like an actor and background elemental for what the best ever motive or whatever stimulating or whatever author that I will be, with calling me the beast. For being a Jewish, but I won't be nothing. Because of they says what to be here, but there they reclamates for the being the whole that they delires feverly that they will be. Also the thousands of millions of dollars because if I will rob them with mind control while walking in Buenos Aires. Sorry for this. I'm living from this place. This is a 21 minutes already video that you'd ask me with your honors carry and file it from the F.I.C. United Nations that you wanted to say, and this is 1324 at this place where I'm found at my mark, and the thing is finished, and not anymore. And they wants to talking with my mother, but they doesn't know what to say because of they seek for my mother for the making their research part on the research for all and for the whole I got, and where did I take the money and what did I write because of they didn't allow me to be or to have. Not what I will do, because if they are so clear about the whole and understanding the reality, and understanding is so clean and so clear, like the disgusting abominations they are, that they know I'm gonna put them death. And I'm gonna celebrate it and I'm gonna be happy. Sorry for this. And the way you'd ask me, Your Honors, in Spanish. Videos publicados en A.P.A.S.S.D, Naciones Unidas, Justicias Parties, TMMD, MMDSB, Pregnant Office, International Court of Justice, Liaison Office, IPEC&T. IET. I'm sorry. Forgive me for this. Um, the references for what the clear fact as much this all right now, and to really commit into finishing ever after, and not anymore. Forgive me for my I am in fury. And they says that I offend them. And I had a son of a damn disgusting freaks in front of me, like all though permanently does, calling me balinazo in front of one employee of a Burger King, Buenos Aires, which were just about to giving me like they does all over, making offenses and fabbling and mythomaniacally cycles to generate, telling whatever the best of fables with me, and trying to force me to be, with them evangelicals and every cut and freak that up as Masada. Sorry for this, that serves them and servile the generate of them, for whatever them business they can do. So if I am such a whatever they can say, besides to be my privacy in my affairs, they will never that much to try to submit me to be, for they will be supreme. Sorry for this, and I'm gonna show them that they are gonna put in the disgusting best ever ashes, whatever they breathed on the best ever spitting shit, the way they do all the day. Sorry for my terms, and this is beeped right there. Okay, nothing else for now. I think that finished, and the whole of the shit persecuting me to start really giving them the business they need. So sorry. Something else. The reality which deservedly, psychiatrically, Do I need to say anything else? What is the best ever reality that Argentina can provide on health, public health, and authority even to count in what health and what title to call about mental health? To go to kill and submit and everyone to accept a coin for to make the best ever deal? Or to blow up a motherfucker military Argentinian for the making the organization for the baking the best ever simulation for the ancestor race? Sorry for my terms, because of you all too. Saving for victims. I'm sorry, Your Honors. I'm sorry, El High Gadosh. I'm sorry, Your Majesties. I'm sorry, Beautiful. You have this already. Wonderful.